Welcome back, everybody, to Be Bold, Go Bold with Coach K and myself, Raphael and Coach, it's been quite some time. Heard you guys left for a little while, but tell me how you been so far.
Yeah, good to see you, Raphael. Yeah, it's been quite a while. It's good to catch back up. Um, yeah, it's been a busy few weeks since we've last been here on the show. But yeah, we had a big trip in Alberta. We're well underway with our regular season, which is great. The weather's cooperated for the most part, so we've been able to get a lot of ball in and get a lot of time on the practice field. So yeah, it's been a productive couple of weeks, and I'm excited to kind of talk about the weeks that were, and yeah, it's been a good start to our year so far.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear about it. Well, for all of those you watching at home, we got to talk about Alberta. We got to talk about the regular season. Got to talk about a major national qualifier rematch. So, Coach, how about you start us off right here? Tell us about the first game in Alberta. Give me some pros, cons, and one player that really stood out to you there.
Yeah, so the first day was really exciting. Our first full day in Alberta. We had a later start to our tournament, which was great. Everybody got an opportunity to sleep in and get climatized a little bit with a little bit of elevated altitude and all that. And you walk in, and one of the best facilities that I've seen in this country. First of all, I have to really commend Okotoks baseball and thank them for an incredible week. They were very gracious hosts, and they put on a great event. But we walked in the facility; it was incredible. Yeah, they're very lucky over there, and I think we'll talk a little bit about kind of what's going on over in Alberta, which is, I think, really exciting for the game. But yeah, it was a really good start to our week. We played a very good Edmonton Expos team. They could do a lot on the baseball field. They were an athletic group. They kept themselves in the game on the pitching front. They had some good arms going, but we were able to catch them on the back end of a doubleheader for them. It was our first game of the tournament. It was their second. And yeah, we took advantage of it. We didn't take them lightly. We put a big time arm on the bump on in regards to Shalom, and he had a great ball game. He was one out away from a complete game, and we wanted to make sure that we kept him eligible for later in the tournament if we did make it to Sunday baseball. And he did his job. He did his job to an absolute T. In regards to the offense was rolling. We had a lot of length, 1 through 9, 1 through 10 in the order. Everybody was contributing, and that was exactly the way that we wanted to start our week in Alberta. So it was a really tough test. But I think across the board, we felt really good as a group, putting our heads on our pillows on that night, and knowing that we were 1-0 and going into a big day too. But a lot of credit to Shalom. Did an incredible job. Zach came in that game and finished it off for us on the bump. So, I commend him for coming in and being calm, cool, and collected, and doing the job that he needed to do. And it was just a great team win. And that's exactly what you want, when you go across the country and you want to showcase your program, is making sure that, the result is very, very team oriented. So I commend the group.
For sure. Big win like that. But after such a big win in a huge tournament, you're going all the way to Alberta. What were the words of wisdom there for the team right after? Don't get too ahead of yourselves for the next day, because we got a lot more baseball ahead of us.
Yeah, it's a long week. Again, you kind of, you see what's going on around you, right? I mean, there was games before us. The coaching staff actually went out to the facility earlier on in the day to take a look at kind of, what the field looked like. And when I say field, I mean the other teams in our tournament, what the tournament field looked like. And yeah, we knew that we had our hands full. We knew that this was not going to be an easy path to Sunday baseball. And that's exactly what we wanted. It's exactly why we made the trip across the country, because we wanted to be challenged. We wanted to be tested, and we wanted to be really ready for our true opening day, which is, of course, our regular season opener that followed shortly after. So that was definitely the messaging, Raphael. I think not to get too far ahead of ourselves, and not to get too caught up in the moment. It's one game, it's one result. We have a new day coming up tomorrow, which was we had a doubleheader slated for the following day, and we knew that we had a long day of baseball ahead. So I think the messaging was pretty clear. I think the guys were pretty engaged, and I think they understood what the assignment was. And it we're going to talk obviously about day 2 in a minute, but it led to some good things. I think it led to some a little bit of adversity, and I think that's a good thing. I think that was definitely the messaging, just to stay locked in and to understand why we're here. It's a business trip, and we're here to represent our program. In the highest form, and to really showcase maybe to some of these programs that potentially we could be seeing in the national in the national championship, that we are, one of the ones to look for out of the province of Ontario.
For sure. And I like that term. It's a business trip. Got to keep the boys locked in for that.
No
But speaking of that doubleheader, the next game, tell me about game 2 against the Calgary Bucks.
Yeah, I think the big one coming out of that was, twofold. I think, again, Jordan Tobe got the call on the bump for that one. Felt really good about Jordan on the mound there. He was coming off of a really successful preseason outing against Milton. A little bit earlier before that trip, he started our year off well on the mound, and he was very, very well deserving of the start against Calgary. And again, we felt good about it. The other one that was a real positive coming out of that one is the top third of our lineup that day really contributed. Joaquin had 3 RBIs on the day, a couple of multi-hit performances from Shalom and Jack Rossetti. So you always want your top of the order contributing in a big way, and they came up and they did the job, and they were up to the task. Unfortunately, we just fell behind too early, and there was just too many to go and get towards the end of the ball game. You go into the last inning down 6, down 7 runs, whatever the case is. I mean, that's a tall task, and we try to tell the guys, and I've said it before on this, it's a buildup of small moments, and you need to, those need to add up over the course of a ball game, because all of a sudden, you blink your eyes, and all of a sudden you're in a 7-run, 6-run deficit in the last inning. And we did our best. We made a big time rally in the last inning, but we put ourselves in too big of a hole, and you can't do that. You can't do that against really good programs. And Calgary was a scrappy group, and they just wouldn't go away. And they found ways to manufacture, and they found ways to, I would say the one thing that they did, and some of these teams did as a whole over the course of the week, that I was really impressed with, is they executed in the big moment, in the moment that they had to execute in. And I think that's something that has to really inspire us, and something that has to really get instilled into our identity, into our DNA a little bit. So they just had the big hit in the big time moment, and you got to tip your hat to them. So Calgary did a great job. We ended up losing a tough 1-run game to them, and but give all the credit in the world to Calgary. They came out, they played a great ball game. They had a tough first day. I think they played the hosts in Okotoks, and it was a rough one for them. But then they came back, the following day, and they picked up a big win against us, and kept their opportunity to play Sunday baseball live, and that put us in a position where we had to go and do some work. So good first game. Not the result that we wanted, but always good to get some takeaways, on both fronts, both on the positive and things that you really need to work on. And I think we got both of those.
For sure. But my question right there, you get yourself into the last inning, you're down 6 or 7 runs, but you guys still manage to rally back and almost bring it right there. How do you keep your team motivated like that when you're down so big at the very last attempt?
I think it comes from experience, Raphael. I think we got guys here. That's the great thing about our group is we have a lot of guys that have been in, some of the biggest moments that you can have in our game. And, you really lean on those guys. And it's not just from the player front. That's the great thing about the experience that we have with our coaching staff. And that's why I continuously say I am just so fortunate and so lucky to have the staff that I have. Rick and Roman have, been in so many big moments, not just as coaches, but as players, and myself as well. But, I look to them for a lot of leadership and a lot of guidance within our program. And they did a great job of that. And, Roman is always, the calming presence, and I think that his role fits that. And, it's just simply bringing the group together. in a time of, struggle, and, getting the heart rate down and just having a mature conversation and making sure that everybody's engaged and understanding what our goals are. You can't come back from a 6-7 run deficit through one swing of the bat. You need to build up those moments, and Roman was continuing to remind everybody of that. And for me in my role, got to stick to the game plan, understanding that I would say technically, because of where we were in the year, it's still preseason. It's a tournament, it's high leverage, but winning the tournament isn't the be all end all. It was preseason. It's still getting us ready for the real start of our year here in Ontario when we get back. So I think that was the biggest thing. And I'm going to really trust a lot of our big time gamers, the guys that have been there, done it, from our player front, to continue to lead in these moments. And we saw a little bit of it. And again, just a lot to build on out of that Calgary game. And I still felt really good about, the rest of our week, coming out of that one.
For sure. So rest of the week, you still got another game to play that same day. How did we feel going into Sylvan Lake, and how do you think the game went overall?
So going into Sylvan Lake, felt really good, because we were lined up in regards to pitching. We still had a ton of arms, and had a conversation with Jack Rossetti, got the ball against Sylvan, and he was ready for that one. I think, because of Jack's schedule last year and all of the obligations that he had on the baseball front, playing school baseball, playing for a travel team in the US, we didn't see him a lot on the mound. So, and I didn't see him a lot on the mound in big tournament games. So this was really a great opportunity early in our year for Jack to get the ball in a big moment, to really put us in a great position to get us closer to Sunday baseball. So was feeling really good heading into the game. Jack battled, he threw 5 innings of just workman's ball. That's the one thing that you can always trust with Jack is he's always going to compete, and he's always a gamer, whether he's in the game or he's not in the game. He's always getting his teammates up in the dugout. He's always, trying to keep everybody in every single pitch, so he's trying to put his stamp on the game no matter what his role is. So it was really exciting to see him work. He was in some really challenging spots. For the most part, offensively, it was one of our more, lackluster performances. And it's disappointing because, when you see Jack work as hard as he does on the mound, you want to work hard for him. So we did that in other ways, but it's baseball, and they threw a great guy on the mound, and Sylvan Lake is a tremendous program. And one of the big takeaways for me from Alberta was, just the quality of baseball there is incredible, and they're doing so many great things over in the province of Alberta. And as somebody that is just a baseball lover and enthusiast specifically for our country, it was really inspiring, and it was really incredible to see what's going on over there in the province. So Sylvan Lake was just another example of the great things that are happening over there. So they had it all. They had power, they had athleticism, they had consistency, and they had a true respect for the game. And I tip my cap to them. And they ended up coming out on the winning end. So it put us in a tough spot heading into Saturday. 1-3, understanding that we really had to 1-2 rather, excuse me, understanding that that we had to come out on Saturday and sweep the board for us to get any type of a chance to be playing on Sunday. And it's set up for an important day on day 3 of our tournament in Alberta.
For sure. And speaking of that day, you guys have a big game coming up against Okotoks the next day. You had a tough day at the office the day before. What was the lesson to the team there? How to stay in the game?
Well, it's well documented that Okotoks is one of the, if not the best program in the country. And, you see, all these guys from the program, landing college commits and, draft eligible players that have a lot of upside and have bright futures in the game. It's very easy to get up for a game like that. Doesn't matter what your record is in the tournament, doesn't matter where you are in your year. It's just an easy one to get up for. And I'm so happy that we were scheduled to play them when we did. I wouldn't have wanted to play them in the back end of a doubleheader because I don't think we would have given them our best. We played them early in the morning on Saturday, and again, we were set up for success. Nate was ready for a big start, and he got his full work in prior to first pitch, and you could see Nate was excited, and Nate was exposed to an incredible opportunity in an incredible environment. The stands were jam-packed for both sides. There was a lot of eyes on our game. I think there was a lot of people that were really intrigued and interested to see what our program was and what we were about, and what some of the best baseball in Ontario is about. And we showcased it. We got off to a bit of a slow start, but the great thing that we did is we took care of the baseball. We minimized damage. And I really find that with our group is we play to our competition. So when we play a team like Okotoks, it just elevates our game to another level. And we did go with a short roster, so everybody played a role. Everybody was engaged. Everybody was a part of that game in some way, shape, or form, and that was great for us. So Nate had, he had some good moments in the game. He got us out of some spots. He was touched up a little bit by the Okotoks offense, which, incredibly disciplined group, have the ability to do damage late in counts. And they just grind out at bats, and they find ways to get on. And that's what good teams do. And Nate understood that, and he stayed locked in and focused. And, he came out of the ball game, and he gave us a chance to win. It was within a couple of runs, and Mikhail comes in and totally gives them a different look on the mound. And he did a great job. He just threw a couple of mistake pitches that he knows that he would love to get back. But I wouldn't change a thing. I would do that all over again in a heartbeat. Mikhail's a gamer, and I saw some real raw emotion from Mikhail, which really excites me about the season moving ahead. I didn't know he was that competitive. I didn't know he was that much of a gamer. But I'm so happy he's in the environment that he is in now, because I think he's going to really thrive, because that's what we're about. We're gamers, we're competitors, we hate to lose. And Mikhail is that to an absolute T. So I saw a lot of good things from him, but rallied back, had a big comeback. We were up 3 heading into the last inning. And Okotoks found a way. And, they ended up winning the ball game. They walked us off, and that's what good teams do. That's why they are one of the best, if not the best program in the country. And again, a newfound respect for them. And they gave us a good day of ball. And I think it's only going to give us a lot in regards to high leverage moments as we move forward in our year, Raphael.
For sure. And like you said there, you saw some stuff out of Mikhail that you weren't expecting to see. You saw a lot of competitiveness from the team. But overall, from that game, do you think that the team put their best foot forward and gave 100% of their effort?
Oh, my God. They're warriors. They're warriors in Alberta. They represented our program incredibly. It was such a great week. We did so many good things on the ball diamond, and the trip was so much bigger than that, Raphael. It was so much bigger than the baseball. It was so much bigger than one tournament. It was about going over there and, getting that experience of being with each other on the day in, day out, getting to hang out with each other at the hotel, at the team hotel, and kind of experience some of those cool moments. Like I teed up, on the show before we went out there. I went, we were going out there, during my birthday, and that was the the first doubleheader that we had over in Alberta when we played Calgary and Sylvan Lake, and we came back to the hotel after a couple of tough games, and we watched the Leaf game. We watched them lose in OT, of course, and we don't need to get into all that. I still have PTSD. Yeah, I still have PTSD about that series, geez, but it was great. The guys got me this this cake from Costco. It was, it was really cool birthday cake. It was cool. And, we just had a really good night at the hotel. So, I told them through the day, on that day, there's nowhere I'd rather be on my birthday. To be out here in an incredible facility in Alberta, 2 baseball games to be a part of, with our group, Leaf game at night, watching with the guys. I mean, you don't get any better than that. So
what else could you want?
Oh my God, right? I mean, it was amazing. That's what it was about, and I think it just brought us closer together. It really unified the group, and the parents loved it. The coaching staff as a whole loved it. The weather cooperated. They were telling us for the most part in this Mother's Day tournament over the number of years, you're getting snow, you're getting sleet, you're getting rain, minus temperatures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It couldn't have been a better week weather-wise in Okotoks. So great week. It was amazing. We don't need to get into the last game. The last game was a write-off. We're not getting into the Weber game, but just a great week. And our program showcased incredibly well in Alberta, and the messaging coming out, Raphael, to kind of put a tie on all of it. Our goal is to be back in the province of Alberta in August. For a big national championship. So we got a bit of a taste of it. We love Alberta. We want to be back there. And the goal is to work incredibly, incredibly hard to put us back there in a couple months' time. So we're on the road to Fort McMurray now.
Absolutely. And we're excited to document every minute of that. But just circling back, we won't bring up game 5, but first and foremost, I do want to say I am glad that the boys got you a cake, because I was going to ask if they did anything to celebrate. Yeah. But second, I do want to ask, tournaments like this, the boys all get to hang out, the coaches get to hang out. How important would you say is building that team chemistry early on in the season?
Well, I think it's huge. I mean, I think it's really important. That's a big part of success. It's a big part of winning. It's a big part of, wanting to come to the ball diamond and being part of the group that you put so much work in with over the course of an entire year. The expectation in an elite program is always to go and get your work done, when you're not involved in the team environment. That's an unspoken expectation. But what motivates you to be the best ball player that you can be individually and for your program are the guys around you. It's the people around you that make you better. When you're embedded into a program, it's the expectations and the emotion and the drive that really fire you up. And that comes from your group, that comes from your staff, it comes from your teammates. And ultimately, it does come from yourself, but it's really important. You want to feel like you're playing for the guy to your left and the guy to your right, and the only way that you really feel invested in that is when you have opportunities like this to get away and to spend a number of days, if not weeks, with your guys and get to know them a little bit better. So I think it's really important. And I think we really focused on that, for that trip. It wasn't just about winning a tournament. And to be honest, that wasn't the number one goal, Raphael, to go over there. There was a lot of other boxes that we wanted to tick, and that word and that piece of chemistry and team camaraderie was pretty high up there. So I think we achieved a lot, and I think it's really sparked us for the success that we've had coming back here to Ontario over the last couple of weeks to start the real season, within our program.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because clearly those last couple nights of building that team chemistry paid those dividends, because
Yeah.
since then you guys have completely flipped the record from 1-4 in Alberta to 4-1 in the regular season. So talk to me a little bit about that. What's that been like? How has the team been acting? And what are some key highlights from these first 5 games in the regular season?
Well, the biggest one. So, if you're asking me, what's one thing out of these 5 games that you could really take away and say, this is a building block. This is something that we want this to really be the identity of our program. 5 games in, we've given up 5 runs. 5 runs in
Incredible.
5 games. Yeah, that's on average a run a game, right? So
Good math.
oh my God, thank you. Math wasn't my strong suit, but they make it pretty simple with the great work that they're doing defensively and on the mound here. So, yeah, listen, you should have a ton of success when you're averaging a run a game defensively on the mound. That gives you a really great opportunity to win a ball game. So the first 5 have been really, really eye-opening, and I think what this has told us is, the Alberta tournament and our 3 preseason games that we had here in Ontario before we went out to Alberta was a perfect start to our year, and gave everybody incredible opportunity, and it gave us a chance to really identify a lot of things to put us in a position of success to start our year here in Ontario. So that's really the biggest takeaway. I think now as we're kind of getting deeper in, I think there's going to be a much more focus on, kind of the small details, but the bigger picture is that area of offense. We have to get the offense going. Only giving up 5 runs in 5 games is fantastic, but we haven't put as many runs on the board as I think we would like to. I think the small details are so important. We have to be a team. If we're not going to put a bunch of runs up on the board, and we're not gonna take care of business early on in the game or whatever it is, we have to have the ability to win those 2-1 games. We have to have those abilities to win those ball games where it's going to come down to one decision, one ball on the barrel, one base running decision, one high IQ play. We need to win those ball games, and we need to find ways to win those ball games. So that's the one area of I would just say improvement that we need to focus on in the practice environment, and for the next couple of games that we have coming up, leading up to our next tournament in Vaughan. So yeah, it's a great start. 4-1 after 5 is great, but we got a long road, and now it's a build up to our next big time event, which is the Vaughan tournament in a couple of weeks. But I know we'll be highlighting that a little later on down the road. But we're excited about it, and yeah, we got a couple more big games coming up this week.
For sure. And just before we get into those, I heard that there was a pretty big game that happened recently, somewhat of a national qualifier rematch. Tell me a little bit about that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was exciting. Saturday night under the lights, we take on a team that took us out of the qualifier last year in Etobicoke. I think when the schedule comes out, that's a game where you have circled on your calendar. The first one against a team that took your hopes and dreams away of going and representing Ontario in a national championship. We did not take the game lightly. You like the term business trip. It was the definition of a business trip, going into Etobicoke and into that environment. And we had a really great night of ball. We were missing a couple of key guys, but we came out and we understood the assignment, and we got off to a great start early on. We put runs up on the board early on, which is really important for us when we talk about kind of the focus and what we're trying to get better in as a group as we're moving forward here. And the biggest thing, though, again, just guys on the mound are continuing to fill the zone. They're continuing to compete. They're continuing to find the get out pitch. It was done by committee on that night. A lot of love. Jack Rossetti, Brody Kemp, Zach Firestone, Joaquin Cater Sanchez, all just dogs, just getting after it, just finding ways to get out of jams. They all did an incredible job. And, specifically to kind of round it out with Brody, the one thing I want to say about Brody, it was great to see him on the mound in that moment, in that game against that team, because the last time that we saw him in a competitive environment on the mound for our program was in that championship, in that national qualifier against the Etobicoke. Wow. So it kind of came full circle.
Yeah.
And he comes back in, and it's just, the Brody that we know. And he's looked really good for us on the mound, and we know that if we're going to have any success this season, we're going to need a lot of that from him. So that was great to see. Timely hitting was a big one here. We were really efficient, and we got a big win. And I think when we look back at our year and we look back at some of the bigger moments this season, we're definitely going to have that one at the top of the list, because we knew that the first one against Etobicoke was going to be one that we wanted to try and make a statement, and not just, in regards to the opponent, but, to the league. We're here, we're coming, we're coming. This is a big year for us. And we wanted to put our stamp on this season early on, and we felt like we achieved that. And just a big win to highlight the first five games of our regular season. So that's one to look back at and to really be proud of as a program.
Absolutely love it. You got to love those full circle games right there, and show them that this is a game we want to get, national qualifiers right there.
That's right.
But just before we wrap things up with the coach's question of the week, I got to ask you, what's one or two exciting games we got coming up that we can really circle on our calendars?
Yeah. So coming up this week, we have our scheduled first matchup against Mississauga North. Mm-hmm. Mississauga North is a previous national championship winner, national qualifier winner here in Ontario. They've had some success over the last couple of years. So, we're excited about the challenge and what Mississauga North brings to us. And so we'll be looking to host them this coming Wednesday night, and we expect a good night of ball. They got a lot of great players, and, very similar to Okotoks, they've had guys that have been drafted into the major leagues. And again, junior national players, and, a well-coached group. And they elevate us, right? They bring our game to a level that we need it to be at this time of the year. So we're excited about it. We're excited to bring them into our house. And it doesn't matter what day of the week it is, what type of a ball game it is. We know that we're gonna always get the best from a program like Mississauga North. So we're excited to host them this week. That'll probably be the highlight of our week this week in regards to competition. And then the following week, before Vaughan, we're playing a Mississauga Majors team that has high hopes and high aspirations for national qualifiers as well. They've had a lot of success in earlier years, and they're expecting to be one of the contenders for national championship hopes as well. So we had a great game against the Majors last year in the qualifier. I know, program as a whole, when we talk about the Majors, they're looking for a little bit of redemption against us. So we host them as well. And so we're hitting a chunk of our schedule, Raphael, where it's going to really, challenge us in more ways than one. But, with school baseball wrapping up, playoffs wrapping up on that front, school starting to kind of get to that wrap up phase. I know exams are starting up soon for the guys, but we're gonna just continue to see a more focused group, guys that are a whole heck of a lot more invested in what we're doing here. And it's an exciting time. So this is what you grind the off season for. It's about this right here. And we're excited about the days and weeks ahead, because yeah, we got some big time ball ahead. That's really going to test us in more ways than one.
Well, I'm really looking forward to covering every second of it with you. I'll tell you that much. But
Yeah.
just to wrap things up here, Coach's Question of the Week segment we've been kind of teeing up the last couple episodes, but I've heard that there's something new going on in practice, something to really, kind of acknowledge the players who've been doing something right. Tell us a little bit about this new ritual you guys been doing.
Yeah, so we got this. We got this from the college football world, down in the U.S. specifically. We got a lot of football fans in this circle, and my thought process was, how can we incorporate both worlds? How can we incorporate the football world, something that our guys are so passionate about, they follow religiously, they love, they implement some of it in their sporting life, whether it be like a hit celebration or whatever the case is. How can we blend the two worlds together? So this was an initiative that I put together along with our manager in Adam, and we thought, let's reward guys for good things on the diamond, not just from a performance standpoint, but from a leadership standpoint, from all facets of our game. So basically what we're doing is we have these stickers, and they get thrown onto players' helmets. And basically we award them at practice, week's end, after ball games, and we basically say, okay, well, this guy gets it for a great outing on the mound, or this guy gets it because, in this moment in the game, he showed a leadership quality that we really liked. So, guys could get one, guys could get multiple, for a ball game, for the good things that they instilled within our group. So I think it's going to build up to be a little bit of a competition. I think guys are going to really fight for these accolades. And, when you talk about guys that are in their last year potentially of, at least of baseball within the NT program, I think there's no better way to kind of have a keepsake, with your helmet, with a bunch of those stickers kind of draped on that helmet. You can always put that up on a mantle or whatever it is, and kind of look back on it and say, these were really, really cool moments within our program, and it makes you kind of think about that, maybe that one moment that you thought was a really big highlight for you in the year, and you can point to that on the helmet. And I like it. I think it's really cool. I think it really pushes for more competition in the program, and that's always a good thing. So it's a great way to blend the two sports and the two traditions and all that. So really cool. I think it's gotten off to a great success, and hopefully by the end of the year, everybody's helmets will just be draped in those NT stickers. So we're excited about the initiative.
I love it. Have you noticed any of the guys starting to feel that little fire under them to get those stickers against each other?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's definitely the talk every day that we're at the ball diamond. There's always some reference to it, which is a good thing. Like, whether they're joking about it, or whether they're talking in high regard for. I mean, look, it's just a good thing. It's just you're talking about, something that is geared and focused towards the game into our program. That's always a good thing, right? Because look, we've all been there, and it doesn't have to just be baseball. You've been there, I've been there, 16, 17, 18 years old. The mind wanders, right? You're talking about God knows what, sometimes, and it's like, yeah, we got to dial it back in. This is just another tool for that. And I think it's been very effective. And like I said, it drives compete. It drives competition. That's the big word, right? So I think it's been a killing success, and yeah, I love it. I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Well, I love it. Hope to see that it continues to be a success as we cover it throughout the season.
Yeah.
But Coach, Great to have you back. Thanks so much for today. If you do want to stay connected to the team, feel free to give us a follow on all of our social platforms for more frequent updates. On Instagram at North Toronto Baseball _18U_elite, on Twitter at NT Elite 18U, and right here on YouTube, Be Bold, Go Bold with Coach K. Coach, thanks so much again. Welcome back, and I'm looking forward to covering the rest of the regular season with you.